وهذا كتاب أنزلناه مبارك فاتبعوه واتقوا لعلكم ترحمون.
Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Firstly, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear respected brothers and sisters, we come to another session of the Quranic themes. And in the past few weeks, we have covered the heart. We have covered the way the heart sort of gets affected. We've covered some of the big disease of the heart, namely arrogance, which leads to a lot of other vices, a lot of other sins. And last week we covered about riya, which is showing off, and this really takes people to another level where the deen and the action that they do is spoilt because they don't realize that they're losing their reward, and they're doing it for others, and they're running into a lot of trouble, not realizing that all of this should be for Allah's sake. So we come to another Quranic theme, and today's theme is going to be about ittiba'ul hawa, which is when people follow their desires or their caprice, or they follow their shahawat, or they follow their ego, or they follow their passions and whims and desires and so on. This is a massive problem in today's world. In fact, if you look at the signs of the last hour, when the Prophet ﷺ talked about the signs of the last hour, a lot of things that would happen towards the end of times is because people are actually following the shahawat, because they're following the desires. We're living that moment, we're living that time. There are very few that cry, and there are many that laugh. There are few that cry, there are many that laugh, and these are the end of times. It takes a lot to get someone to even come to the Quran, to even listen to the Quran. It is even more difficult to get that person to, obey the Quran, to be affected by the Quran, for the heart to be softened by the Quran, and then it takes even more to have that person shed their tears for the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal. But it's so easy today to make somebody just loosen themselves up, just fall apart, and just party, just laugh, just have a good time. It's so easy for people to get up and have a lot of laughter, just joke and chat and continue. Why? Because this is it. This is ittiba'ul hawa. This is where a person is following their desires. So what's hawa? Hawa is an empty part of us. And hawa in Arabic is something which means empty and it's falling. Okay? So if you look in the Arabic lugha, you look in the lexicon, you'll find that hawa has two meanings. One is it's empty, it's got no value, absolutely no value, but it's there. And the other one is that it's falling, which means that you're losing out. So just like the number zero is there, we can see it. The number zero on its own has absolutely no value. Now if the number zero comes after something, then it'll have a value. But if the zero is on its own, it has no value whatsoever. But you can see there's a zero there. The same way, there are a lot of things that we might do in our lives that have absolutely no value. It's there, we're doing it, it's an action, we've done something, but it has no value at all. And the second thing is, what Allah Azza wa Jalla has said in the Quran with the word hawa is that it's not only valueless, but it's also the fact that it's going down, which means that it's taking you towards the minus. So you start off with a zero, and you start to get -1, then -2, then -3, and -4, and you're actually going down. Now what does this mean? This means that when the human being is not engaging with the Quran, not engaging with the future, not engaging with the akhirah, not engaging with Allah, then the human being is at loss, straight up. Okay? Now, as hard as that might be to us, we might think, well, no, really, I'm gaining something here right now. Yeah. So let's say, for example, somebody is watching, let's say, a movie. Somebody is sitting there on their pad playing a game. Somebody is on the PS4, Xbox. Somebody is out there having a really nice party, a game, whatever. They're gaining something, right? Well, the real value of what they're gaining is absolutely zero. They're gaining something right now, yes, right now. But in the end, it's zero. So how does this work? Well, right now, what you're engaged in, what the Quran recognizes is you're in the al-ajila. You're in the now. And al-ajila is something which you're getting now and you're benefiting maybe through, maybe taking a break, your muscles are relaxing, your brain is engaging, you're having some fun, you're really in the moment of relaxation, which is fine. That much of it, of your body getting a rest, relaxing, when you're engaging with any of your shahwa desires, anything to do with your ego, that much where your body gets some rest, that is fine. That is your immediate benefit. That's what the al-ajila is. It's your immediate benefit. So we all need some of this, because you need some of that to then be strong again, to go out there and do something good, right? So let's say, for example, you're doing ibadah. You can't do continuous ibadah. You can't always read the Quran 24/7 and 24/7 ibadah. You can't do that. It's almost impossible for all of us, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he was in ibadah. His tongue was very busy, always busy with the dhikr of Allah. His mind was always connected to Allah Azza wa Jal. But he also, took a break. He also mixed in with people. He also had a laugh sometimes. He also relaxed and so on. That is there. But when it comes to us, what we need is we need to break off sometimes. You need to break off and then get back to the ibadah, then get back to the deen. But what happens is, when you're engaging yourself with some kind of fun activity, with something that you're sort of relaxing with, you've got to realize that right now, this is what's happening to your body, that you're getting relaxation. But when it comes to the next world, the value of what we just did is absolutely zero. And it might be even a loss, especially when the human falls into ghafla. Ghafla is being heedless. Ghafla is when your mind is completely absent from Allah Azza wa Jal. So Allah even says, He says very clearly, وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ He's not heedless at all. He's not unaware at all of what you're doing. And the Quran has talked about ghafla in many different places, where it's talked about not to fall into this, because then it's a serious trap. Because what happens is, shaitan wants us to first follow our desires, then he wants us to follow it even more, then he wants us to sort of either be in ghafla. So once you're in ghafla and you're absent-minded from Allah and from the akhirah, you're sort of, you're zoned out. Let's just say you're zoned out. If you get into there too long, then there is a very big danger that you might start enjoying it. And the Quran warns us of this. And there are hundreds and thousands and millions, perhaps in the billions of people out there that are enjoying the fact that they're not connected to the akhirah, not connected to Allah Azza wa Jal. There are Muslims, there are millions of Muslims who have got themselves into a situation where they're in ghafla, they're heedless of Allah, of the akhirah, of the duties, of what's coming in the afterworld. They're not preparing for the afterworld, and they're kind of, they're now dropping. This is what the hawa is. Hawa is now you're dropping. And you don't even realize that you're doing this. And then the worst is when people get hooked onto it. So then comes the part where people are actually indulged in, like, this is it, this is what I want. This is beautiful. And then they get addicted to it. So they're like, without this, I can't live. So there are people out there who are hooked onto drugs, hooked onto alcohol, hooked onto gambling, hooked onto women, hooked onto just earning money all the time, hooked onto just maybe gambling, hooked onto just chatting, hooked onto partying, hooked onto their phone, hooked onto just connecting with people, connecting with the world. There are people who've just gone into there, and without that there is no life. There is absolutely no life. There's people who've actually got hooked on to harming others, hooked on to harming themselves. There's all sorts of things we know that's going outside there, right? Hooked on to porn, hooked on to, just fulfilling their desires over and over again, hooked on to food, addicted to food, becoming obese, and like without food there's no life. So this is all how did it happen? Well, the first thing is when you engage with your hawa, when you engage with your desires and so on, there's a little bit that we need, which is your break, your little bit of, istiraha. But the Quran tells us that we should again and again, even though you're taking a break, this is very important for us to understand, even though you're taking a break, you should not take a break from the dhikr of Allah. Because the Quran has said very clearly, Wal asr, Allah said, I swear by the time that is passing by. Innal insana lafi khusr. All of you, every single human being that is there, all of you are at loss. You're losing unless you do one of the next four things. Illa alladhina amanu, except those who engaged in belief. If you engage in belief, that's one. Number two is amilu salihat. You engage yourselves in good actions. Watawasaw bil haqq. You engage yourself in trying to encourage one another towards the truth and towards what's absolute, what's sort of the core reality of what you should have. Haqq in the Quran doesn't just mean the truth, it means reality. So engaging people with reality, the reality of the akhirah, the reality of where you're going. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and engaging one another to withhold yourself. Okay, this is the surah number, I think surah number 103 of the Quran. Okay, now Imam Shafi rahimahullah, he considered this surah to be 1/4 of the Quran. He said this surah has got the meaning of 1/4 of the Quran. Why did Imam Shafi say that? Because if you look at it, if you look at 1/4 of the Quran, it's trying to get man. In fact, Imam Shafi said that if this surah alone with another sort of 3 parts, 3 other surahs or something of the Quran was to be revealed, that would be enough for us as a guidance. Why did Imam Shafi go to that length to say that? Because the whole Quran not only has brought us the Quran, but it's trying to stop us from falling into our desires. One is to engage with the desires, another one is to fall into your desires. And let me give you an example. They give this example to know about this. People get into desires, then like I said to you, they get hooked onto it, they get addicted to it, then they can't live without it. Then it's like they've forgotten everything else. Then when you give them something of the Quran, it's like they hate it. Then they want to go against it. Then they could even kill, because this Quran is something that is undesirable to them. That's completely abhorring to them, that they can't stand the Quran, they can't stand the revelation, they can't stand the messengers that come, or anyone who speaks about the revelation to them, that they could go out there, they could kill. The Quran has talked about this. I'll give you the references of that in a little while. But just before I go into that, I want to say that there's a story they give. Okay, so imagine there's a man who's been chased in the jungle. Who's chasing him? There's a lion that's chasing him. And the man runs. He comes to a well. So he's got no other place because the lion's coming very close to him. So what he does is he jumps onto the wall of the well. So the well has got a wall around it. Okay, he jumps onto the wall of the well, but of course the lion can easily snap him from there. So he sees the rope that is hanging from the top of the well with the bucket there. So he jumps onto the rope, and then he sort of thrusts all the way down to the bottom. Okay, he doesn't hit rock bottom, but he's kind of mid-air somewhere, hanging onto the rope, and for a temporary moment he's got away from the lion. And the lion is right up there looking down at him, waiting for the moment that he's going to pop out from there, maybe climb out. He'll probably need to climb out for some reason. The lion's just hovering up, out there, waiting for him to come out. So the man, has got his temporary relief. He's now, half sort of sitting in the bucket, half hanging onto the sort of rope, and he's got his legs towards the wall of the well, and just about sort of, surviving here. And then the man realizes that he's in more trouble. Because when he looks down, he can see snakes that are at the bottom of this well. This well doesn't have any water, there's snakes there. So the man knows that he's in even more difficulty right now. That if he slips from this rope and this bucket, he's going to fall right onto the snakes. Then the man has even further trouble. He has 2 mice that are on the top of the rope, and the 2 mice are now nibbling into the rope. There's a black mouse, there's a white mouse, and both of them are eating into the rope. So he thinks, damn, I'm gone right now. If I'm heedless any moment, then the 2 mice are going to snap the rope, and I'm going to have to sort of, just suspend myself somehow. Otherwise I'm going to fall onto the snakes. And if I try to climb out, then what happens? The lion gets him, right? So now he's in a real spot of bother. And at that moment, there's a tree that's above the well, and there's a honeycomb. And from the honeycomb, there's some honey that is dripping into the well. And part of that falls onto his mouth. So he licks it, and it's honey. And it's very sweet, pure honey. So he licks it, and he tastes it. And as the drops are falling onto his mouth, onto his tongue, he's loving the beauty and the sweetness of this honey. He's keep giving him nourishment. It's so sweet. He just wants more, and more drops on, and he takes a good lick of it, and more drops on, takes a lick of it. What happens is, now he's enjoying the honey so much, he forgets about the lion, forgets about the snakes, he forgets about the mice that are eating into the rope, and any moment he's going to snap. He forgets about all of this. Now it's inevitable, we know, that sooner or later that rope is going to snap, and it's going to be the end of his suspension onto this rope. So what they say is, they've given this example to say that the man who's running away from the lion is actually death. And death is waiting for us. The moment, you're in this dunya, you're in this well. So the moment you get out the well, death is going to stamp you up. The rope that you're holding on to is your life. But your life is in danger because you've got the black mouse, the white mouse that are eating into your rope. What are they? They're the night and day. The time that's passing by, the night, the day, that's the black mouse, the night, the white mouse, the day. And they're eating into my rope, which is my lifeline. It's my life that I've got. The snakes beneath is Jahannam. So if I'm not careful, then I could fall. May Allah protect all of us here. We could fall into Jahannam. And they say the honey that falls into the man's mouth is the dunya, is the sweetness of this world. So if you're in the well, think about it, right? If you're in the well, and if that's me there, and you got the lion there, you got the snakes below, you got the mice eating the rope, you want to stay aware of what's happening. Yes or no? You want to stay aware of what's happening. And even if you were to take a bit of honey, the trick is, if you take a little bit of honey and you're sustaining yourself, but at the same time you're watching everything, you're watching that rope, you're watching the line. Has the line gone? How far have the mice eaten into my rope? Okay? Am I slipping? Am I about to slip? Have I got myself, sort of suspended with maybe my own muscles towards the wall? You've got to keep yourself aware, because if you're heedless at this moment and the rope snaps, then while you are tasting the honey, you're going to go straight down to the snakes. And that's the thing about this dunya, that if you take too much of it, you fall into it. And that's what the Quran is talking about, the hawa. Hawa is that it's a zero, okay? It's nothing, it has no value. And the second thing, it's dropping. So it's taking you minus. And you're dropping towards your own failure. And what Surah Asr has said, so Imam Shafi, back to the ayah of what Imam Shafi has said. Imam Shafi is saying that if you look in the Quran is trying to save you, trying to get you to engage with your akhirah, engage with Allah, engage with the future, engage with what is reality, engage with iman, good actions, and hold on to one another through the reality, the truth, as I said. and hold on to one another towards, why patience? Patience because you're not going to get everything in this world. You're going to always have problems. You're always going to have faults. You're always going to have blame, always going to face deficiencies. So you might as well learn how to withhold in this world, and that's how you get through. So what happens is these people, all these people I spoke about, which is whether it's gambling, whether it's porn, whether it's women, whether it's money, whether it's just indulging with your phone, whether it's wasting time with one thing or another, whether it's the games, whether it's people with drugs, whatever it is out there, a lot of people are being caught on. What's happening is, why is their value zero? Because when they get to the akhirah, it has no weight. In fact, why is the word hawa, why does it mean that they're falling down? That when you get addicted and hooked, then in the akhirah you've actually got a big minus because you sinned now. So now you got to pay up. Now either you got to burn in the akhirah or you got to pay up. Now that's reality. Imagine this. That's reality. So what the Quran has said is that there's a ajila and there's akhirah. So ajila is right now. So right now, this moment, what is happening now? That's ajila. And akhirah is afterwards. Okay? So what the Quran warns us of is for us to be careful not to get sucked into the ajila, which is the right now. To get sucked into the now. So this is Surah Isra, Surah number 17, ayah number 18. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Man kana yuridul ajila, ajjalna lahu fiha ma nasha. Whoever wants to just lose themselves in the ajila, in the now. Like you want to just lose yourself in this dunya, in what's now, what you see right now. You've seen a pretty girl, you want to go for a haram relationship. You've got some friends that have just asked you to take some drugs or cigarettes or this, that, whatever, then you move on from one to another, something. It's a now, so you just want to take it. You go every day to work, you get money, you're looking at investments, you're looking at how to make more money. But, okay, making money is halal, but you get sucked into so much that that's it. You only see dollars in your eyes. That's the ajila, that's right now. You get onto your phone, your smartphone, your PC, your pad, whatever it is, your games, your TV, your monitor, whatever it is, you get sucked into it and you want it. You want to play for hours, you want to watch for hours. Okay? So that's the ajila right now. So when you engage in that, what does Allah say? In this ayah, He said, Ajjalna lahu fiha ma nasha. He said, Allah said, I'll hasten it for you. I'll actually make it come quicker to you. You will get it. You want all of this, you'll get it. You'll get loads of it. Ajjalna lahu fiha ma nasha. For whoever I want, I will actually make it quick for them. Thumma ja'alna lahu jahannam. But then after that, because of the zero, you enjoyed yourself in this world, you got a value of zero. In the next world, what have you got? Well, you've got Jahannam to face. Because you never used your time to do anything good. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةِ in the next verse, Surah Isra 17, ayah number 19, وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةِ whoever wants the next one, not now, but the next one, وَسَعَى لَهَا سَعْيَهَا and then he strives, or she works hard towards it. Sa'a laha sa'yaha. Works hard for what, works hard in a way that is appropriate for the akhirah. Sa'yaha. How the akhirah should have a person working for it. That's how they work for it. وَهُوَ مُؤْمِن and they're a believer. فَأُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ سَعْيُهُمْ مَشْكُورًا then however you've worked for the next thing, not right now, however you work for the next world, then I will fully appreciate what you've done. Now, let's go back to what I said about the signs of the last hour. The signs of the last hour, one of the biggest things, the times we're living in right now, is everything is about the now. You think about it. You think about people out there, all the things they're doing. Why do people kill out there, murder? Why? Because they want the gains right now. They don't care about the akhirah. They don't know about the akhirah. In fact, it's become so bad that, before, if you said to someone, Wallahi, I'm saying this to you, even in my own life, I've seen this difference. And I'm saying Wallahi in the masjid. It really hurts me for me to say this. There was a time in my life when I was young, I used to hear the adults. And even if I was to ever say it, I can't remember if I ever said it, but I used to remember the adults, if they said, the akhirah, you watch, in the akhirah I'll get you. Wow, that was it. Phew, the line was drawn. It was like that person would, the other person would say, no way, you're going to wait for the akhirah for this? Forget it, forgive me now. It's such a big thing to say that, wait till the akhirah, or on the day of judgment we'll see, a phrase like that. That would be it. That would be the last thing that needed to be said. Because the other person would fall onto their feet and say that, fall onto his feet, or says, please forgive me. Do whatever it is I need to do, please forgive me right now. I don't want to wait for the akhirah for this. Forgive me right now. Okay, let's sort it out right now. Now that was when I was young. Right now, you go and tell people, you wait till the akhirah. Say, oh, akhirah. Oh, that's very far. Good, man. I mean, imagine this year, I had this builder that came to my house. He wrecked my house. He made a lot of damages, man. A lot of damages. Okay, gave me a lot of stress. Gave my wife a lot of stress. Left. Like the gas pipe leaking. Left the electric wires live open. I mean, this was literally, and I had young kids running around in the house. I mean, this guy should have been sued, right? And guess what? He's a Muslim, and he prays, and he should pray Jama'ah with me in the house, right? So anyway, he actually steals £15,000 from me, and then I meet him after a few months. He's now dodging me. He doesn't see me, whatever. I can't sue him because there's no paperwork or anything that I've got. It's all word of mouth and so on. You trust a brother from the masjid, you give him the thing. I'm not going to say his name, but you trust a brother. He does a job for you, and then he prays with you. He cries when you say hadith to him. Allahu Akbar, okay? Right? He says, brother, you're going to pray now, Salah? Please, wait. I want to do my wudu. I want to pray with you in Jama'ah. Okay? So you kind of feel, subhanAllah, a brother like this, you can trust him. So I gave him extra monies and so on in advance. I gave him monies in advance. £15,000 he rips me off. And then one day I see him in the masjid car park. And I said to him, brother, what about this damage you've done? And what about the money that you've taken from me? You owe me £15,000. He starts saying, whoa, what about you? Whoa. He starts arguing with me. Then I said to him, the day of judgment is coming. I said that to him. I said, the day of judgment is coming. You know what he said? He said, oh, day of judgment. Oh, that is far away. He said, no problem. It's like far away. He's like, you're not going to get him in the court of this world? No problem. Enjoy your life, my friend. I mean, la hawla wa la quwwata. That's where it's got to, where they've, and I've heard this more than once. You say to people, day of judgment. It's like, okay, day of judgment. Whew. There's some people who they've done wrong to you, and then they're like, honestly, I've seen this with my own two eyes. Someone who's wronged me, okay, I'm talking about myself. Someone who's wronged me, and it's a really serious thing they've done. And I've said to them, look, you've got to seek forgiveness from me, and you've got to seriously do your tawbah. You know what they said? They said, oh, I don't need to seek forgiveness from you. I'll just go to Allah and seek tawbah. I said, no, you can't do that. You can't, if you've wronged someone, if you don't get their forgiveness, you can't just go to Allah secretly and just say, oh, Allah forgive me, astaghfirullah, and then walk off. It's done. It doesn't work like that. You have to get their forgiveness. Now, I explained to the person wouldn't listen. They've done something really bad to me. They're facing a lot of embarrassment if they have to say sorry to me, but they don't want to say it. And they're saying that they'll secretly go to Allah and they say astaghfirullah, whatever, and then it'll all be done. I'm saying, no, listen, that's not how it works, right? So to the same people, if you talk about the akhirah, it's like, oh, akhirah? Oh, is that where you're going to get me? Oh, in between that and now, I've got a lot of time to, enjoy myself and so on. That's what it's come to. Now, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about the end of times, if you talk about all the different things people were doing, all the things people do, you could almost summarize all of it into ittiba'ul hawa, today's topic, which is people following their own desires and passions. Whether it's to do with, let's say for example, somebody's not listening to their parents, somebody's hurting their parents, actually physically hurting their parents. Why? Because they're following their desires, they want their desires. There's even to the extent, you've got people who will murder their parents to inherit from them early. That's the time we're living in. You've got people who will rip people off, don't care, no shame, no ethics, no morals, they rip them off on the internet. I know people here in this society ripping people off on the internet. They're opening an eBay account, they'll rip somebody off, they'll rip several people off, people then start claiming, right? Start putting a complaint, then what they do, they shut the account down. While that claim is going on, they move on to the next account, they'll open a new bogus account. And then they'll rip some other people off, then as the complaints come in, they'll shut that down. Then they'll go to another one. Okay, shut that one, go to another one. And that's what they're doing. There's people out there who don't care at all. There's people who've got into zulm, oppression, enslaving people. We know about these cases, okay? You've heard in different towns and cities, they enslave people, they keep them, close hand, they give them drugs, then they manipulate them, then they'll sleep with them, illegally, of course, illicitly, of course, and they enjoy their lives. They don't care. They don't care at all. Why? Because ittiba'ul hawa, you've got to your desires. First is you followed your desires. Now following desires, there's nothing wrong with that to a small extent, which is, there's a small part of it that we need to do on this earth, like I explained earlier, okay? Part of it you need to do just to give you relaxation, get your break. Sometimes you relax, you have a bit of a laughter, a bit of a, chat here, that's all fine. Bit of a relaxation is a bit on your phone, bit on, you relax with your monitor, you relax a little bit with your smartphone, whatever it is. A bit is something that we all need. But if you slip like that individual in the well, if you slip and you get intoxicated with this well, then there is a huge disaster. So whenever the Quran has spoken about the message of the Quran coming, straight away it said, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا الْهَوَىٰ. It said, don't fall into your caprice, your desires, your ego, and don't go all the way down. So let me give you the verses. So just this one, let me give you. So in regards to the revelation that Allah Azza wa Jal has given, this is Surah Baqarah, Surah number 2, ayah number 145. Allah Azza wa Jal says, Allah Azza wa Jal says that this is the truth that basically has been given to you. And then Allah Azza wa Jal says to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's addressed to all of us. وَلَئِنِ اتَّبَعْتَ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ بَعْدَ مَا جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِنَّكَ إِذًا مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. If you start to follow your own desires after and sort of fall into your desires, ahwa'ahum is, like I said, value is 0 and you're falling into it. So you're going deep into it and you're falling. If you do that after knowledge has come to you, then you are the oppressor. There's no one that is oppressing except for you, because you will lose. You'll go to a state of loss. In Surah number 2, Surah Baqarah, ayah number 87, Allah Azza wa Jalla has said, أَفَكُلَّمَا جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ بِمَا لَا تَهْوَى أَنفُسُكُمُ اسْتَكْبَرْتُمْ. Allah says, and He was talking to the people in the Prophet ﷺ's time, some of the Jewish communities in the Prophet ﷺ's time. Some Jewish people in the Prophet ﷺ's time were fine, but some of them were just like some of them what happened before. So Allah Azza wa Jalla says, every time a messenger will come with something which your caprice, your egos don't desire, istakbartum, you're going to become arrogant. فَفَرِيقًا كَذَّبْتُمْ, then you'll end up denying a group of my messengers which I've sent to you. وَفَرِيقًا تَقْتُلُونَ, and a group of messengers you will slay, you will kill. Now, this is the extent of where the desires can come to. If you look today, most of the troubles going on across the world is what? Is because of this. Because there's a revelation, Revelation talks about what? Revelation says there's an akhirah, there's accountability. And according to the akhirah, according to the next world, you're going to be accountable, so you better not get sucked into the ajilah, the now. You better start giving preference to the akhirah, the later. Alright, the world that is coming later. These people that are around who want to manipulate others, who want to take over countries, who want to sort of bombard people, who want to get money, who want to sell things, who want to just become rich quick, whatever it is out there, they see the ajilah, they see the now, they follow their desires, and therefore they're ready to kill. They're ready to kill, they're ready to murder, they're ready to wipe out entire towns and cities because of their desires. If you look at even domestic violence, if you look at human abuse in any form or shape, you'll see that there's always following of desires. Because the man wants to live a particular way, he wants to be in a particular life. So he's got used to that. He's not hooked onto that. So when he falls into his desire, when he's gone right down and thinking, no, I want it my way, right? His woman might say whatever, he will beat the whatever daylights out of her. He will do whatever he has to just to get his way. It's either his way or the highway. So where does that come? Because people following their desires. When it comes to Allah Azza wa Jalla has said in the Holy Quran, this is Surah An'am, Surah number 6, ayah number 118 to 121. Allah Azza wa Jalla has said, when it comes to haram and halal foods, there's many that will follow their desires without any knowledge, and they will even eat those things which Allah's name has not been invoked upon. Okay, Allah's name has not been mentioned upon, but they will follow that. So you can see that today. You will see people, la ilaha illallah, there are people, somebody who's working, in a restaurant, okay, told me this. He's working in like a McDonald's restaurant, and he told me this. He's a Muslim, he's a manager, but when you look at him, you can't tell that he's a Muslim. And he's seen other Muslims in the community come and, they'll order the chicken burgers, they'll order whatever, kullu halal, bismillah, just take it all in, doesn't matter where it comes from, whatever, just in a stomach. I've heard people out there, it's like, again, you fall into desires and your focus is on the now. Your focus is not on the later. Now, what the ulama say, one of the cures to this disease is to focus on the later. To focus on what is going to happen eventually. One of the cures of this is that they say over the passions and desires which you've got, they say that it's something which is below your heart. A lot of the ulama have mentioned this, that the passion, the desires and so on, the whims and desires is beneath the heart. Above all of this, we've got our aql. Our aql is a combination between our brain and our heart, and there's a process of thinking that we've got. This aql, or this process of thinking that we've got, which is our faculty of reasoning, our faculty of intellect and so on, this thing actually can start to weigh things up. It looks at concrete, it can take concrete evidence, it can weigh it up, it can look at what's about to happen, and it eventually looks at what's going to happen at the end. Now what Allah Azza wa Jalla has said in the Holy Quran again and again, He's reminded us, is aqibah. What's the end result? Aqibah. And let me give you an example of this, okay? A man puts £10 to an online, let's say poker or something, right? Because you get these adverts, bling, 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 888, this .com, this casino, blah, 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 whatever, okay? So a man thinks, okay, let me put £10 towards this. So he puts £10 towards it. They give him a free £10. He doesn't even put £10. They normally say, we'll give you first shot, £10, £20 for free. And I tell you guys, may Allah protect us. The things that are happening and how people are fooled, how they're fooled. You're not even going to gamble the way it was gambled in the old days. I reckon, 100 years ago, if somebody gambled, they had a good chance of taking a good earning. Today, you're going to lose everything. Why? Because it's all about microchips. It's all about artificial intelligence. These people are so dumb. May Allah protect, may Allah guide us. May Allah guide us. Anyone in gambling, listen to this. Just get a hold of this, okay? So they give you £20 for free. Then you take the £20, then you basically take a shot. Now, you're guaranteed to win. All right? It's a no-brainer you're going to win. Not that I played it, but I'm telling you the psychology behind it, right? Because that £20 they gave you, it's linked to straight away a new customer. When a new customer comes, it's like, whew, we're going to give him a good win. Maybe they'll give you £800 for it. £800, and they know they're going to give it to you because they know once you take the £800, out of that, you're going to at least spend another £10, £20, right? You're going to give that much, at least that much, right? So you got £800 straight away in your account, in your bank. You're thinking, what? I spent 20 quid? I got £800? Well, I can keep myself maybe 700 quid and I can spend 100 quid. What's wrong with 100 quid, right? Now they know you're going to come back. So when you come back, through the artificial intelligence is worked out. It works at your age, it works at who you are, it works at your background, works at your ethnic minority. This is all artificial intelligence out there. They're working all this out. The computer does it. No man is sitting there pressing the buttons. The computer works it out. Worked out, okay, this person is between, let's say, 30 and 40. There's going to be a certain amount that he's going to bet. 20 to 30, there's a certain amount. 40 to 50, there's a certain amount. It's all worked it all out. Based on the city you're in, based on the area you're in, based on the ethnic background you have, based on your name that you're given, based on your age, all that is calculated. how much it needs to give you to pull you in. So in your next £100 you spend, it's going to give you some win. It's going to probably give you another £400. So then you think, wow, I just got 1,200 quid just sitting here, do nothing. Now it's going to give you a bit of loss, so you might lose like another £300 or something, but then it'll give you another gain. It'll give you a massive one. It'll probably give you like £2,000. You're sitting there thinking, £2,000? I'm really good at this. You're a fool, because it's baiting you in. So they've given you so far maybe £3,000. They'll give you another £2,000. But over the next few days, they'll give you another £2,000. You're like, whoa, man. You know, I got £4,000. I'm like, whoo. And what did I spend? I spent only my first 20 quid, and then the rest of it got from there, right? So then what they do is they start giving you a few more losses, and then a few more losses. But then what happens is your mind is now on £4,000. I got £4,000 in a few nights. I can get that again. You have this belief. I can get that again. I can get that again. I can get that again. And you're chasing after a dream that will seldom, hardly ever come your way. So you'll now spend hundreds and thousands. Now you borrow money. Now you're going to borrow money. So they've seen that you come to zero. Okay, you've now got to zero. They gave you like 4,000. You spend all of it. You come to zero, and now you're coming back with more money. Now they know you're hooked on. Why? Because you're borrowing money. So now they have to, when you borrow money, bring £1,000 back to the table, they have to give you at least a bit of a win to keep you going. And they've calculated it until they see the pattern where you keep coming, you keep coming, you keep coming. Though your losses are getting greater, you keep coming with more money. Now they know, that's it, they've got you. Unless you go through some therapy, they have got you. And this is the nature of how people get sucked in. This is the nature of how people get sucked in. So each and every one of these, whether it's drugs, whether it's whichever one it is, people get sucked in. Now, you might not get sucked into any of this. Let's say, for example, you're musallis. You're not getting sucked into any of this. But there are people amongst us, that get sucked into games. Now, games is not like gambling. It's not like pornography. It's not like, a bad sort of sinful habit. But the game is giving you the value of what? Zero. Because Allah said, look at the end. Look at the very, very end. The very, very end of all your games. Let's say I had a whole night of games. So I am so happy. I played with my friends. We had a laugh. The whole night's gone. Okay. At the end of it, in terms of my akhirah, my balance is absolutely zero. That's the reality of it. Allah keeps on telling us, look at the aqibah. So let's say, for example, this poker player, this gambler was to look at the end result. How would he do it? Is that he has to sit there and he has to analyze gamblers. I've asked this question to people out there who know of gamblers, and I've always got the same answer, the same reply. I said, has there ever been a gambler that you know that's made it in life? That made the thousands and whatever. You'll probably find a few, like some lottery winners, some, like the one in the few millions, okay, one in the billion or something, that got a huge earning through some lottery or something, and then they were smart about it. Now that's the most difficult thing they have to do, because most people who earn money like that through gambling, they lose everything after a while, because they start to be careless with their money. There's only a few that will, invest that money, whatever. That's a separate case. But do you know in your lifetime of anyone out there who's actually had a wonderful ending because they went into gambling? The answer is no. They've lost everything. They probably have lost the relationship with their wives. 99.9% of people, they're in that case, right? Alcohol. Do you know anyone who's got into that, who's had a really wonderful life? They take their booze, whatever it is, and afterwards, it's like the family loves them, people around them loves them. No, man, no. They hate them, right? Do you know anyone who's gone down the line of any of these vices, sins and so on, that has got to the end and like drugs, whatever it is, and said, you know what, I made it. As in, everyone loves me and I've got success over success. Even if you become one of those, they show these gangsters and so on, chains all around them, They got all the women they want. They got cigars in their mouths. They got all the cars they want. They got the houses they want, and they're flashing. They're flashing their sort of their life to all these others. Some of these rapsters and so on, right? So the youth look at them and think, wow, that's the life I want. Now, even if you get to that stage, either a bullet's going to kill you. A lot of these rappers, bullets, kill them, or the drugs will kill you because they're taking drugs, right? Or they die a natural death, and then the akhirah, they're completely finished. I mean, after that, there's only Jahannam waiting for you. When you've led a life like that, and you've completely gone down your hawa, and you followed your desires and gone all the way down, what's there for you? There's nothing. So even if you made your success through one of these, you got to the end, what Allah tells you to do is think about the last thing. What's the last thing? The last thing is failure. The last thing is losing out on everything. So what we need to take accountability of, and I know some of you are musallis and so on, where you don't go through any of these things. None of you are gambling, none of you are stealing, none of you are doing any of these things. But there's another thing we need to watch out of, which is my time that is going by, my akhirah that I'm supposed to earn every single day. How much of that am I really earning properly, and how much in the 24 hours am I sort of sucked in? It might not be sucked in, but how much am I engaged with this world, and how much am I engaged with the akhirah? How much am I engaged with the ajila, the now, and how much am I engaged with the akhirah, the next world? And just do a quick calculation and just see how much, and you'll know your position in front of Allah. Because if you are spending a lot more time with the dunya, and you keeps on taking it back there, keeps on taking it back to the now, you're spending a lot of time with that, and less time, very less time with the akhirah, then may Allah protect us, we're at loss. And if you're spending more time with the akhirah, less time with the dunya, less engagement with the dunya as you can, then you're gaining something, then you're on something. And that's the reality with all of us. So when the Quran talked about this hawa, it even said that there's no difference between such people and a dog. Okay, so I'm going to give you the reference for this Surah A'raf, Surah number 4, ayah number 175 to 177. The Quran said, there's a person who, a particular person Allah was referring to, but it talks about anyone on the earth like this. Allah says, Allah says, I gave him my verses, and I showed him the way, but he slipped. فَأَتْبَعَهُ الشَّيْطَانُ Shaitan led him away. فَكَانَ مِنَ الْغَاوِينَ This person became of those who were led astray. وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَرَفَعْنَاهُ If I wanted to, I could pick him up again. وَلَكِنَّهُ أَخْلَدَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ But this person wanted to just go straight. This person wanted to be a person of this world forever. أَخْلَدَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ See, some people, when they get sucked into this world, they do not want to know about death. Now there's a good check that you can do with yourself right now. If you hate death, if any one of us hates death, hates to even remember it, hates to even think about it, hates to even bring it across in the mind, or to think about its reality, or the day I'm going to die, or it's coming anywhere. I'm like, no way, man, no way. I don't want to die. If you're in that situation where you cannot stand the mention of death, you don't want to think about it at all, with regards to yourself. I'm not talking about others. So we always see these janazas. Okay, that's a janaza. That's him. That's her. That's her. We always hearing people getting ill. Whatever. That's them. I'm talking about myself. So if the remembrance of death for me, where death is actually coming towards me and taking my life, if that remembrance to me is like something I really don't want to think about at all, then there's something seriously wrong with me. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that the way to break this, you falling into your desires, ittiba'ul hawa, the way to, the shahawat and the desire, the way to break that is the remembrance of death. He said, أَكْثِرُوا مِنْ ذِكْرِ هَذِهِ مِنْ لَذَّاتِ He said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, continuous increase. He said, increase. He didn't just say, do this. He said, increase, make it more and more, more and more. He said, remember the thing that breaks your desires. So the Sahaba said, what is that breaks the desires? He said, al-maut. He said, death. So the more you remember death and the reality of death, the less you can fall into your desires. That's the remedy to a person falling into their desires.
that you think about death. Think about the reality. Like I said to you, the final thing. What's after all of this? What's the whole, after everything I'm doing, what's the last thing? What happens after that? And what's the last final thing? Because that's going to be the reality of everything I'm doing. So let me give you an example to understand it. Let's say, for example, let's give a very simple analogy. Let's say a child is not studying. A child is not studying. So what happens? Well, he enjoys himself. Then he grows up. Then he starts failing in his lessons. Then he starts getting to the bottom sort of, part of. Now he can't see what's going to happen, right? So what he needs to see is what's going to come right at the end. So what's at the end? The end of that is he fails his exams. He gets to the bottom of the sets. He goes to the most rubbish schools and colleges you can imagine. And then he comes out of there, he's not even good enough for that. Then he has to work with his bare hands. He goes out there, he's working, toiling really hard, maybe 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, just to bring his bread home, when he could have probably been sitting in an office, relaxing and doing his work and getting a lot of money. But now he has to go out there, he has to probably even beg, or probably go out there and do jobs that he would hate. When he grows up, he's going to hate doing these jobs. That's the reality that he's going to face. But the child can't see that. Somebody who's hooked onto sweetness, you can't, you see something sweet, you just want to take it in. Your body fat, sugar, and so on, all that is building up. Then you're getting toothaches, then you're getting stomach aches, then you're getting probably towards diabetes, then you've got diabetes, then you've got type 1 diabetes, then you've got type 2 diabetes. If you don't stop, you're going to have a seriously bad time towards the end of your life. So you got to stop the sugar intake and control the sugar intakes that you take. And that's the reality. The last thing is, well, death. You're gonna either have a miserable life or you're gonna face death. With most of these things, to stop a person falling into their desires, to reverse all of it, start thinking about the akhirah. So the doorway of the akhirah is what? Is death. So what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling us is that the more you think about death, the more you put a stop to you losing yourself in this world and falling into the abyss of complete ruin, halak, ruin. So here in the term Allah is used in Surah Araf, ayah number 175 to 177, is that Allah says, akhlada ilal ard. This person decided that they want to be here forever. That's the worst that can happen to you. That you don't want to think about death. Death is the worst thing for you. You don't want to think about the akhirah. No way, man. Forget that, man. I don't want to even think about it. That hurts. It hurts to think about death. Why? Because you want to stay on this earth. Now, when you get to that stage, Allah says, فَمَثَلُهُ, He says, وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ, and he starts to follow his caprice, his ego, his desires, completely going downhill with it. Allah says, فَمَثَلُهُ كَمَثَلِ الْكَلْبِ. Allah says, his example is the example of the dog. إِن تَحْمِلْ عَلَيْهِ يَلْهَثْ أَوْ تَتْرُكْهُ يَلْهَثْ. If you look at a dog will stick its tongue out, and dog is going to go whether the dog is resting or whether the dog is on the run, the dog is going to put its tongue out and it's going to breathe like that, right? And the dog will bark. Okay, whether you just leave it alone, whether you don't leave it alone, ow, 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 its habit is to just do that. It's just habituated to do that. Now, why did Allah mention that? That whether you put a burden on it, whether you burden it with something, whether you don't, you leave it alone, it's still going to stick its sort of tongue out. Why? Because the dog, it just wants to, it's got this kind of a, it's opening its mouth. It wants to take the air inside. It wants to cool something inside it. And it just has to keep its tongue out and keep the, it just cannot get enough of keeping his mouth open, sucking the air inside, and whether it's left alone, whether it's not left alone, it's going to do that. The same with this person. This person, doesn't matter how much of the dunya you give them now, it's never going to be enough. No matter how much air you give that dog, oxygen you give that dog, The dog just doesn't want to shut its mouth. Maybe when he's sleeping he'll shut his mouth, but otherwise he'll keep on opening his mouth and sort of, sticking his tongue out. And that's the thing about this person. And the other resemblance is, just like the dog, once he sees something he wants, it's just going to go for it. So he sees a bone it wants, he'll just go for it. So he'll run towards it. The same as this person. This person has lost himself to the extent that anything to do with the dunya, they'll just go for it, they'll go for it, they'll go for it, they'll go for it. They've got no sort of, limits, and they've got no direction in life. They've got no limits to stop themselves in terms of what they should or should not go towards, and they've got no sort of, they've got no direction in their life. The direction has been lost. ذَلِكَ مَثَلُ الْقَوْمِ الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, well, that's the example of those people who have denied our verses, meaning that this person has completely lost himself. Now, there are many verses in the Quran to the extent, I'm going to finish in a few minutes. Allah says, you can follow your desires, and you can even turn your own desires into your own God, into the thing that actually sort of directs you in your life. So ilah is the thing that I accept as my authority. So our greatest authority is Allah Azza wa Jal. In loosely translated in English is God, right? Ilah. But in reality, ilah is the one who dominates me, who has control over me, who I've submitted to, who I accept as my authority. That's ilah, right? So here in the Quran, in Surah Furqan, Surah number 25, ayah number 40 to 44, Allah Azza wa Jal says, Allah says, أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you not seen the one who's turned his own desires, or he's made a God, and his God is actually his desires. His own desires, or what his own ego tells him to do, his own whims and desires, that's his source of authority, that's who he's submitted to, that's who he's enslaved to, that's who he takes orders from, and that's who controls him, his own desires. أَفَأَنْتَ تَكُونُ عَلَيْهِ وَكِيلًا. Can you seriously become someone who's going to be a representative for such a person, or be someone who's going to take care of such a person? أَمْ تَحْسَبُ أَنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ يَسْمَعُونَ أَوْ يَعْقِلُونَ. Or do you seriously think that most of them are listening or actually using the faculty of reasoning to understand? إِنْهُمْ إِلَّا كَالْأَنْعَامِ. They've just turned themselves into nothing but animals. كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ سَبِيلًا. But they're worse than animals, because at least animals, there's the last thing of an animal. What's the last thing of an animal in the akhirah? After eating, drinking, sleeping, and fulfilling their desires on this earth, what's the last thing of an animal? They're going to turn to dust. So the animal actually, after turning to dust on the Day of Judgment, they've got no worries left. But the human or the jinn, when they fulfill their desires on this earth and they get to the next world, they can't be turned to dust. They've got to face Jahannam. So they're worse. That's why Allah said they're worse than animals. So what happens here in this verse, what Allah is saying is, people can get to the extent where when they drop into their desires and they start falling down, they can make the desire their God. What does that mean? That means that they can't control themselves. When their desires say you got to do this, they just got to do it. And that's, one thing is addiction, right? Another thing is that they just can't control their own habits. They haven't got a control over themselves. So there's people who are, whatever it is that they're hooked onto, whatever it is that they can't control their own desires with respect to themselves, they've fallen into this. And what is it? It's their desires. Now there's people who won't pray. They won't bow down to Allah. Why? Because, I'll do it later on. But I'll do it later on. I'll practice Islam later on. Those are the people that have taken their own desires as gods. We're not saying that they're not believers. Please don't get me wrong. We're not saying that they've got a real God there and they believe in that God. We're not saying that. Allah is saying this is an example. So just as they're supposed to submit as a slave and a servant to Allah, they've now submitted to their own desires. So literally, which means that whatever their desires tells them to do, like don't pray, they won't pray. Their desires tells them that just cheat, they'll cheat, lie, they'll lie. Their desire says just be lazy, they'll be lazy. Their desire says that I know the akhirah is something that's important for me, but I just can't be bothered to work for it right now. That's you being enslaved to some extent. Now obviously there are many degrees. Some people are completely enslaved, some people are half enslaved, some people are 25% enslaved. But as much as me and you listen to our own desires, where our desires control us, that's how much percent we've actually lost control and given the authority to the desires to take over us. So may Allah Azza wa Jal, give us, may Allah Azza wa Jal make us people who wake up. And if anyone wants to wake up with this, one is to think about death. And the other one, as I said, Allah said in many places of the Quran, وَلِلَّهِ عَاقِبَةُ الْأُمُورِ. Allah has the final thing that's going to happen is with Allah. Allah has that final thing. So after my life on this earth, let's say for example a person who works on this earth, he earns money, he gets he's had a good degree, good job, earns a lot of money. What's after that? Okay, he gets married. What's after that? He has children. What's after that? He buys a house. What's after that? He gets cars and whatever. He goes to holidays. What's after that? He gets his kids married off and gives them good education. What's after that? He buys them all houses. What's after that? He gives them all cars and he gets them all married off. What's after that? He has grandchildren. What's after that? He enjoys the end part of his life. And they have loads of celebrations and birthdays and whatever and this and that for him. What's after that? After that is maut. What's after that? Then all the time he spent on this earth, anything that was for the akhirah has a value. Anything that was for the ajila, the now, has zero value. And that's what he takes with him. That's a harsh reality to think about. The zero value and something that has a value. Ajila, akhirah is a very harsh thing to think about. May Allah Azza wa Jalla give us all tawfiq and may He guide us to the straight path. Jazakumullah khair.
الحاملات سنا ونور والراسمات هنا سرور يا حلوة تلك السنين.
The Safar curriculum covers all the Islamic educational needs of young Muslims today in a fun, simple and engaging way. Tried and tested for over 15 years at one of the UK's leading maktabs. The curriculum has been adopted by hundreds of institutions around the world and makes your child's journey in seeking knowledge easy, meaningful and dynamic. This innovative and comprehensive curriculum covers Quran and Tajweed, Islamic studies, du'as and surahs, as well as Arabic in an integrated and structured way. Visit safarpublications.org to find out more.